A few years back, I was part of an off-road racing crew out in Baja California, Mexico. We spent days deep in the desert testing rigs, hauling gear and chasing races from sunup to sundown. On one of those nights, my buddy and I were driving down south along the Sea of Cortez, headed toward Gonzaga on a 4-hour dirt road that cuts through the most remote stretch of desert I've ever seen. No towns, no lights, no cell towers. Just dirt, sea, and silence. The moon was high, the sky crystal clear. We were maybe an hour in when I saw headlights behind us, fast ones. And they weren't just close, they were bright. Like industrial bright. Looked like the guy had a full bar of roof-mounted lights blinding us from behind. It wasn't unusual, honestly. A lot of locals and spring breakers used to blast through that road late at night, thinking it was their own personal racetrack. No cops. No speed limits. Just dust and horsepower. I leaned out the window and tried to wave him off, hoping he'd kill the roof lights. But the truck kept coming. No reaction. No dimming. No slowing down. It just locked in behind us, lighting up our mirrors like a stadium. Eventually we found a flat patch near the shore and pulled off quick before we got rear-ended. Our truck bounced to a stop. We looked back, expecting this maniac to fly by and crash right into the curve ahead that hugs the shoreline. It's a sharp one. People have got off before. But what happened next didn't make sense at all. The lights kept coming. But instead of taking the curve, they went straight right through the road's edge and onto the beach. And they didn't stop. They didn't bounce or break apart like you'd expect from someone crashing at high speed. They kept going right across the sand and into the sea. I'm not kidding. Straight across the shoreline like it wasn't even there. And just when we thought it would sink, the lights tilted up slowly, like whatever it was had lifted off. And then gone into the sky. Silent. No sound. No splash. Just gone. My buddy and I didn't say a word for at least a full minute. Just stared at the water. Then he finally goes, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah." The flying truck? We didn't talk about it again. Not with each other. Not with anyone when we got to Gonzaga. It felt like saying it out loud would make it more real. To this day, we still don't know what we saw. But it wasn't drunk locals. It wasn't headlights on a dune buggy. It was something else. Something that didn't belong out there. And we were just lucky enough or unlucky enough to see it. A few years back, a close friend of mine worked as a long-haul driver. Quiet guy, always observant, never one to exaggerate or stir up drama. One night, he was running through Utah on a lesser-used 2-lane highway, not much traffic, no towns nearby, just open road and moonlight. He said he was wide awake that night, alert in a way that felt almost unusual. That's why what happened next stuck with him so clearly. Up ahead, just beyond the reach of his headlights. He thought he saw something on the side of the road. Not in the road, but just beside it, standing still. At first, he assumed it was a post, a sign, maybe a tree. But the shape was off. Too narrow, too tall. He slowed down and came to a stop about 40 feet from it. Reached behind his seat, grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight, opened the door, and stepped down onto the shoulder. The desert air was quiet. Not silent, but still. He flicked on the beam and pointed it toward the figure. That's when everything changed. What he saw, he swears wasn't human. It was crouched over a dead coyote, clearly eating it. The blood and fur were obvious, the torn-up body laid across the gravel. When the flashlight hit it, the creature turned. Slowly. It didn't flinch. It looked directly at him. Eyes large and unblinking. It stood up, and for a moment, my friend got a full look. Gaunt frame. Thin limbs. No clothing. Pale, almost grayish skin. Easily 6'2", maybe taller. Its mouth was still red from whatever it had been chewing on. Then, without a sound, it started to shuffle toward him. Not fast, just slow and deliberate. He said every nerve in his body locked up. He had no weapon, just the flashlight, which now helped him see the thing. He knew he couldn't stay there, so he ran, jumped in the truck, slammed the door, hit the throttle, and peeled out. The wheels kicked up dust, and within seconds, he had distance. He looked back in the mirror and saw it standing in the middle of the road, watching him drive away. A few hours later, he pulled into a rest area. 2 other rigs were parked there, and 2 drivers were outside talking. He walked over, still pale, still rattled. Before he said anything, one of them asked, "You saw it too, didn't you?" That was enough. They all had. Different trucks. Same highway. Same story. No one had a clue. My friend never went public with it. Never made a scene. Just told those he trusted. When he told me it wasn't a joke. No drama. Just straight facts. I tried to offer a logical reason. Maybe someone out there, maybe sick, maybe wild. But he didn't agree. Said he knew what he saw. And it wasn't human. I'm not the superstitious type. But that story still creeps me out. I'm not a trucker, but years ago, after finishing active duty, I had to drive from DC back to rural Kansas. I didn't have much, just my car, some clothes, and my late grandpa's old service revolver. I left base at 5 p.m., and by the time I made it into West Virginia, it was pitch black. My GPS rerouted me onto narrow back roads and then completely quit on me. No signal, no guidance, just winding roads through the woods and a growing sense that I was far from anywhere. I figured I'd pull over and sleep until morning, then use my atlas to find the highway again. I spotted a small gravel pull-off, locked the doors, popped up my sunshades, and set up to sleep in the back of my hatchback. I had just started to doze off when I heard slow footsteps on gravel. Not an animal, definitely 2 feet, rhythmic, getting closer. I froze, reached for the revolver behind me, trying to move without making a sound. I leaned forward, trying to peek through the edge of the shade. Couldn't see anything, just darkness. The steps circled the car. Passenger side handle pulled. Driver's side rattled. Back door, all tested. Then everything went quiet again. I held my breath, tried to stay calm. Maybe they'd leave? I pulled back the hammer on the revolver. The second it clicked, the hatch window behind me exploded in pounding fists. I tore the sunshade down. There was a man, wide eyes, pale face, open plaid shirt, slamming his fists into the glass and screaming. Not words, just raw noise. I yelled back, told him to leave. He vanished around the side. I jumped into the front seat and fired up the car. Then, boom, my driver window shattered. I didn't even see what hit it. Later, I found out spark plugs can do that. He reached in and grabbed me, dragged me halfway out the window. I hit the ground hard, lost the revolver, and tried crawling underneath the car. He kicked me again and again. Just when I thought I was done, another man came running out of the woods and tackled him. They fought. I reached under the car, grabbed the revolver, stood up, and yelled for them both to freeze. The second man raised his hands. "Don't shoot," he said calmly. I heard screaming. I'm staying in a cabin nearby and came to help. I didn't ask more questions. I thanked him and got out of there. Drove 2 towns over, found a Walmart, and parked under a bright light for the rest of the night. The next day, I called my dad and explained why I'd be late. When I told him, the guy said something like, "I'm not here to chase shadows." He paused. Then he laughed. That was your grandpa's favorite saying. My grandpa died before I was born. Only photo I'd ever seen of him was in uniform. When I got home and went to put his revolver back in Dad's lockbox, I found a photo inside. My dad and his father, and the man who helped me. Same face, same plaid shirt. Dated 1990, the morning of my grandpa's last flight. I'm not saying I believe in ghosts, but I believe someone was there that night. Someone who wasn't ready to let me go. My dad used to be a long-haul trucker back in the day. He drove from Ontario to all corners of the US. He's always been the quiet type. Kept most of his stories to himself. But one time, he shared something that stuck with me. It happened on a late night run through Florida. He was headed west, cutting through the Everglades on a long, flat stretch of two-lane highway. No lights, no towns. Just darkness, swamp, and miles of nothing. He said it was well past midnight when he saw movement on the shoulder. His headlights picked up something pale stepping out of the trees. He slowed the truck, thinking maybe it was an animal or someone who needed help. As he got closer, he realized it wasn't an animal. It was a man. A completely naked man, walking out of the swamp barefoot, soaked, and moving straight toward the road. My dad slowed almost to a stop, still watching. The man stepped right into the lane, then stopped directly in front of the truck. And that's when my dad noticed he was holding a shotgun. No bag, no clothes, just a muddy, pale man holding a full-length shotgun across his chest, staring through the windshield like he was looking right into my dad's soul. Neither of them moved. My dad kept his hands on the wheel, engine humming, foot hovering over the pedal. He didn't dare honk or flash the lights, just stared back. The man stood like that for a few seconds, then, without a word, stepped off the road and disappeared back into the swamp. My dad didn't ask questions. He didn't wait around to see if someone else was coming. He slowly eased back onto the road and kept moving. No sudden moves. No second looks. He said he didn't even touch the radio for another hour. Just white knuckles and headlights stretching into the dark. When I asked him years later if he thought the guy needed help, he shook his head. No, he said. That wasn't someone looking for help. That was someone making a choice. Someone who didn't want to be found. I pressed a little more, asked what he thought it was. A hunter? Someone lost? He just said, "You don't walk out of a swamp at midnight without shoes or clothes and stand in front of a truck with a loaded shotgun, unless you've been out there a long time." That was the end of it. He never brought it up again. Wouldn't say if he reported it or not. But every now and then, if I brought up Florida or mentioned the Everglades, he'd get this far-off look and change the subject. I don't know what he saw out there. Maybe it was just a man. Maybe it was someone off the grid. Or maybe it was something else entirely. All I know is my dad never drove through that stretch of Florida again. Not once.